everybody. Thanks for coming in. First, just a couple reminders. I think I've got most everybody on here muted, but just mute your mic if you could, please, because we are getting some background noise from a couple people. But and then again, typing in your PGA numbers in the chat area so we can record attendance and all that good stuff for you. And we'll have a good time here. So we're happy to have top 50 Golf Digest top 50 fitness trainer in America and all around good guy, Jason Meisch, on with us today. Jason, thanks for doing this for everybody. We appreciate it, man.
I'm looking forward to it. It's a pleasure to kind of resemble some sort of normalcy in our current situation for sure.
So everybody, really what we're going to do today is, please type in questions you have. For those of you who have not taken advantage of Jason's services, I've had a couple of my students go to him and the results are always tremendous. Jason is super detailed and super good at what he does. So we're going to let him sort of roll through some warm-up stuff, junior stuff, a bunch of really cool things. And all I would ask is that you type your questions into the chat at the bottom, and I'll make sure I'm paying attention and watching, and I'll make sure I kind of cut in and get your questions answered for you with Jason. And then before we all get off the call at the end too, I might just take advantage of all of you being on here to remind you about the upcoming schedule for our online series too. So type those questions in and we'll fire away. So Jason, no further delay, go for it, man.
Awesome. For those of you who don't know me, my background is in sports medicine along with biomechanics. I've actually run 3D systems for more than 15 years. I was blessed enough my first job was working for Dr. Rose at Club Golf up here in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and talk about a crash course of going through a master's. And then I joke that I learned more in 6 months on the job with him than I did in 6 years of college. But I'm also the co-director of education for K-Motion. So any K-Vest questions, happy to talk about. And I've been running my own facility up here in Rockville, Maryland for the past 10 years. Work with everybody, so if there's questions. Our goal for today was to talk about maybe 10 minutes. I want to show you some warm-ups and talk about warming up with your clients and why that's important more than just immediately going to hit golf balls. Maybe spend 15, 20 minutes talking about junior performance. We've been blessed to have a highly successful junior program. Actually, all the pennants in my background here are our students when they sign with the school. They get to sign a pennant and hang it up. It's called our Compete program, getting the kids ready for college from a physical demand because they're all lifting now. And then hopefully spending the last half talking about your adult clients and evaluation. And my goal is to give you things that you can do on the driving range or when you're teaching a lesson that you can take into immediate application. I'm sure a lot of you have done the TPI, and even doing the 10 or 12 assessments, if you try to do it on the range, sometimes that can be difficult. So how can we maybe target shoot and kind of just grab a couple things that can let us know, do I have to teach around this issue, or is it something that we can do? And finally, dealing with those same clients who think fitness and exercise is a 4-letter word. And we have to be able to convince them that this drill is golf specific enough that even though it may be an exercise, it's something they can do at home that will help you in the long run from a teacher, and really taking that application piece of what you've learned from your TPI education right to the driving range. So the first thing I want to talk about today is warming up, and warming up appropriately for the game. We have a saying here that we warm up to hit golf balls. We don't hit golf balls to warm up. The reason being is most of our clients who come to us have desk jobs. They're sitting down all day. They probably spent 10 plus hours in a seat, and now they won't need to get up and move. And contrary to most outside people's beliefs, golf is a high-speed, explosive, rotational sport. We're trying to swing as fast as we can, move as fast as we can. So we have to tell our brains and our bodies that we're about to do that. From just the years of experience that we've had, in the past 15 years I've been doing this, we see more injuries happen on the driving range in the first couple holes when people don't warm up properly than they do once they get warm and get moving. So I want to really invite you to show you our 3-minute warm-up. So we've come up with a 3-minute warm-up that they can do on a driving range, something really simple for people to do, doesn't require a lot. And it's about resetting their brain and their balance and their coordination, because you'll be amazed if you did just 3 minutes every day for 2 weeks. Certain days you might feel rock solid, and certain days all of a sudden you'll wobble all over the place. And that day-to-day change could be sleeping, eating habits, hydration, stress, other things influence our balance and our ability to move. And that'll have a greater, quicker change on how we swing a golf club in a short term, because we all have motor patterns, but a daily change that can make an adjustment. So if you have room to stand up, I would encourage you to follow along and try this for yourself. And I'm just gonna show you our quick little 3-minute dynamic warm-up. And if you get up and you're able to do it, my guess is in 3 minutes, we should be able to get a little sweat going. So with how much we've all been kind of hanging out and not doing a whole lot, this would be a good way to get us moving. So what I'm gonna do is whenever we do this, we tell our clients to, especially my older clients, that maybe grab a golf club or something close that they can hang on to help them with balance. But we're gonna do most of this, especially early on one foot, trying to really kick on the brain and kick on that balance, the proprioceptive part of the brain. So I'm gonna step back here. And we'll start off with a warm up. The first thing we do is we call them dynamic leg swings. So we're just gonna swing forward and back 4 or 5 times. I'll turn sideways, and we're just swinging, trying to stay upright. We may take this and then also turn it into a rotational swing. So like I'm kicking across my body. Again, I can hold a golf club, start adding rotation. The next thing we do about 5, 6 of those. Then we call them step overs. So imagine there's something here. We're gonna open our hip and step over the box and step back. Step over and step back. Do that on both sides. From there, we get into rotation. We need to get our brain to work in a rotational pattern. So we start with just plain helicopters. So I'm gonna just go big full turns from toe to toe. Start slower and get faster. As we get better, I'm gonna start bending it over to golf posture. I'm gonna try to keep my lower body still. Just rotating my upper half. And then I might make 4 or 5 swings. Just my arms going as fast as I can. Excuse me, I just lost my ball. And when we do that on both sides, that's roughly about 3 minutes. It's a great way to warm up and just prep your body for movement. Is there any questions on why we want to prep over just hitting golf balls?
Nothing there, Jason, so far.
All right. So one of the main reasons is, like I said, our brains have a great influence on what we do every day. So by telling our brain we're about to move at a high speed, it's going to allow us to then move at that speed. But as soon as we put a golf ball there, the external stimulus of that golf ball changes what we do pretty rapidly. For those of you who have used 3D before, K-Vest, we've used K-Vest for a long time. When we go biofeedback, we may have them do a drill without a club or a ball. And it's amazing how often they actually get the tone to turn on. Then we give them a club, and just adding that club as an outside influence, their ability to make the exact same motion without changing the data becomes much more difficult. And then the second we put a golf ball in front of them and ask them to do the same thing they've been doing the other 2 days, it becomes exceptionally difficult once again. And so a lot of that is influence over what's going on as we add more external stress. What we're going to do is a good warm-up is we require all of our professional golfers and our juniors to do a warm-up. Part of it is also to tell their brain, hey, it's about to hit competition mode. It's time for me to focus and get ready on this. It helps me block out all those other distractions from the long term. And I know Mark has used K-Vest quite a bit, and he and I talked about how hard it is to get somebody to do a motion and then actually put a golf ball there.
Oh yeah, no question. I mean, the transfer is the hardest part. There's plenty of them. The side bend, left side bend is probably one of the hardest for people because they think they're going to stuff the club into the ground. So yeah, 100%, Jason.
Yeah, and just the reason we want to do that warm up, once again, especially when you're dealing with your adult athletes and your adult players, like I said, they sit down their entire life. And what's one of the biggest questions they ask most of us when they come, and Mark, you know, you're on live, and if Sean's here, they ask for distance. How do I hit the ball farther? And there are ways to do that. Obviously, one is more center face contact is super important. And so that's a big piece. The second part is when we're trying to move faster, I ask the question, when's the last time you sprinted as fast as you could? When's the last time you did anything as fast as you can possibly do it? And it's amazing some of the looks I get from my adults that go, high school PE. These are the same guys who want to swing 100 plus miles an hour with a driver. It takes that mentality to move fast. And from that aspect, your brain and your balance system is like a governor. Your body will only let you move as fast as it can safely keep you upright. So balance is a vital key on trying to increase power in somebody. The example I like to use from a pure golf perspective with our instructors is out of a fairway bunker. Typically we'd hit the ball maybe like a half groove thin, definitely on the thinner side. If we did that from the fairway, the ball would go farther. But when you do it out of a fairway bunker, you might be a club to club, and to a half club to a club shorter. That comes from the ability of the sand. We lack stability. Our mental actually slows us down from there, so we lose speed out of the bunker. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, I mean, that's a lot of why we try to get people to warm up, is just to get that brain really working. And you'll notice some changes immediately in your players if they get into a warm-up routine, that they don't struggle for that 5-10 minutes just trying to find the club face early on. If I'm late for a tee time, and anybody who's taught, I've worked in golf my entire life, from teaching all the way into doing the fitness piece. We run out of the pro shop, tee it up. I would rather do the warm up and maybe 3 minutes of putting than go to the range if I'm crunched on time, and I hit the ball better that way.
Hey, Jason, would you just real quick, and this might lead into where you're going next, maybe. I don't know if you were going to go junior stuff next or not, but would you modify your warm up based on age or the clientele, or would you just use a blanket warm up for everybody?
I would start at least with a blanket warm up for folks. As they become more competitive in our juniors, we have a 5-minute, a 10-minute, and actually we also have on our wall over here, I'll bring the computer over. We have a full athletic warm up that takes about 10 to 15 minutes that we do with our juniors. And we do that across sport. And even with the kids, you think they're young, reliable, they're moving. Our tournament players, I've got numerous calls from kids on a range, and they've flown down to Florida to tee up an event. They hurry off the plane, go to the range and try to get a few holes in. They didn't warm up. They're like, my shoulders bother me, my hips are bothering me. And my first question is, did you warm up? And the vast majority of the time it's, no, I just went out and I was trying to hurry. It is a way to prep your body to understand that we have to move high speed. All right, so that's, I mean, know who your clientele is. That's the reason we built the 3-minute one, is I can get guys, even the most rigorously against any sort of fitness component. Like I said, fitness can be a 4-letter word. That 3 minutes, I can get people to buy in, and it's amazing. We've done it on the range. The last time was up at Towson University for their fundraiser, and we'd grab guys out there and we'd just show them like, hey, give me 2 minutes. Let's go through this. And probably 85-90% of the guys came back from the range and said, man, I hit it so much better. And just getting that reaction from them shows how important it is to prep the body to play golf, not just hit balls to warm up.
Cool. So
And
you want to show us some stuff there, Jason? I think you had some stuff where you're going to talk about junior. Were you going to
yeah,
do junior next?
yeah. So our junior warm-ups, just to give somebody an example, in here, when we do any of our groups or classes, we have, let's see here. It's hard to see, but you'll see a whole list of exercises from skipping to bear crawls to single leg hops to all kinds of dynamic motion. And that is another piece of warming up, is make sure your warm-ups are dynamic and not static. So dynamic means with motion, static means held. There's actually research out there that shows if you hold stretches as a warm-up, it slows you down. It overrides that muscular response by holding a long stretch. So we always encourage people to warm up very dynamic and active, like I showed in our 3-minute, nothing held. If we static stretch afterwards, we would do that after a round. We'd stretch the calves, stretch, and maybe do some held stretches. We foam roll after with our students, never before. So really keep that alive, active, moving. That's the biggest thing that we see with trying to be dynamic in their warm-ups. There's a place for static stretching. I find that it's better suited for post-activity.
Gotcha. Jason, can you talk about talk to the group then about starting with assessments and assessing players, and maybe we start with sort of the junior golfer, maybe even just the high school age golfer right in that area.
Yeah.
Such different levels in terms of where they are in terms of growth and development.
Yeah. From a junior perspective, the better the athlete, the better the golfer. Right away. If I have a great athlete and I was able to pass them on to any of you on this, the better the athlete that they are when they come to you, the faster you could teach them. For example, we had a young lady who's a senior this year, going to play in college next year, never touched a golf club till she was a freshman in high school, but was a Division I lacrosse athlete as well as a very accomplished basketball player. Within 2 years, she was breaking 80. And currently her club head speed is 108 miles an hour. And this is just a God-given speed from her playing these other sports and been able to be a great athlete. So when we work with juniors and we assess our juniors, we test a lot of their athleticism skills. In our facility here, our junior test is 42 different screens from motion through power. Our power tests include a 10-yard shell run, vertical jump, a sit-up throw, a rotational throw, a seated rotational throw, a chest pass, pull-up max, push-up max, horizontal pull-up max, grip strength, and broad jump. Just to see what we're screening. And based on those results, we can pretty much give you club head speed off of those results. If you've ever seen us on Instagram, I have a picture of a sophomore right here on a one step, jumping up onto a 54-inch box off one step. As 140 pounds, he's now reaching 121 miles an hour with a driver. When we can put some weight and some size on him, unfortunately, that's what we were working on when this all hit. He's going to be a kid who, for any of you instructors, will probably be able to go 127, 128 on a cruise. And that's what the game has turned into, especially in the
Mason, so that kind of leads into a little bit about juniors and specialization. What's your thoughts, obviously, on specialization? And I'll throw that just right there.
Yeah, I am not a fan of specialization. We encourage all of our players to play at least one other sport. They don't have to play it competitively. A lot of our boys now have took up rec basketball during the winter. I love it because it enforces quickness, explosive jump. We've known from all the research that there's a direct correlation from vertical jump to club head speed. So I encourage them to do that. One, it gives them a brain break from golf, which is healthy from a body perspective in doing something different. And also, there's a time that actually helps them miss golf, which gives them that love and that passion to work even harder at what they're doing. I personally, after maybe the age of 16, we might start talking about really concentrating on our sport. But before that, if they're under 12, I am a fan of play every sport you possibly can play. And if you look at my children, I have a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 10-year-old. They currently play a different sport every season. And it makes a large difference just from that ability level. From a soccer perspective, my kid didn't play soccer. He played soccer 1 year, took an entire 2 years off, played other sports, went back, and immediately in his league became a pretty dominant player just because he was a better, at that age, they can out-athlete people. And he was just a better athlete. And the same thing ties into golf. Like I said, this young lady is going to play golf in college after not playing until her freshman year. Her rapid improvement was directly tied to her pure athletic ability. We've had kids who didn't play other sports, and she's already passed them by, even though they're doing the same training, same pieces. So it's a hard talk with the parents. It's very difficult. If you see, our parents talk is a lot longer than our juniors talk. Like really getting the parents to buy in and understand how we work and why we do what we do, I think is an important piece of getting them in here. And if you ever come into our facility, our entryway is very small for a reason. We don't want the parents to have to hang around because too often the kids are constantly checking in with mom and dad's approval and they don't push themselves at the same rate, or the mom and dad kind of jump in and make it more difficult on the kids. But one thing I will offer as a piece of advice with juniors, and this is the feedback we're getting from our students who all take private lessons, is they enjoy the group aspect. They enjoy the competition piece. And if you're not able to, if you have a group of juniors you work with, if you can get them on the course together at different times, even playing random games, I find it exceptionally helpful. One of my good friends teaches a lot of high-level juniors up in British Columbia in Canada, and he constantly will just take 4 or 5 kids on the golf course, and we'll go, all right, 6-iron trouble shots today. And they have to just think about, we drop them in a place, and they have to think about what they're going to do with the golf ball. High, low, curve it right, curve it left with a 6-iron, and the goal is to get it up and down as fast as we can with just a 6-iron, or we have to hit driver off every tee regardless. So
Jason, we're going to actually, one question came up too, and I know we can do this, but Alan Smith asked, can you provide those tests that you give, and we'll work out something where we'll let everybody get the assessments that you do. I mean, if some of you know, I have a 16-year-old son, and so I recently took him down to Jason to have him evaluate him, and it's amazing to see Jason go through this. And I would encourage every one of you, if you do have a junior or if you want yourself, because I went ahead and, I mean, obviously my son and I are kind of, as Jason knows, competitive against each other kind of thing. And it is amazing that how well I feel like I'm a decent athlete and pretty coordinated and pretty good athlete, but doing what was my broad jump was like 5 foot, and I'm 6'5", and yet I can only jump to 5. I think it was like barely 5 foot, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's I write everything down, and my joke here is I'll know more about you when we're done than you really want me to know. It's but we use that because the only way to get better is to work on our weaknesses, and we have to find ways to, especially with juniors, it's finding ways to push that competitive button. And we have leaderboards up here of what are our best records for each one of our events, and it really pushes the kids of how high is the record for vertical right now? How fast is the shuttle run? And if you want to talk pure athletes, if you've never tried a 10-yard shuttle, which you set up 2 cones 30 feet apart, and you have to go down and back twice, touching the cone. When you go down, back, down, and then through, our record in here, just to give you an example for how explosive, is 7.61 seconds, which is burning. We were in a gym with NFL cornerbacks, and we got a wow. So and that's the same kid who has the 54-inch one-step box jump. that's why I said he's gonna hit it ridiculously far. And so with his instructors, I'm like, you have this great athlete. My job now is just to help him gain weight appropriately and to gain strength appropriately. And they have a piece of putty. I'm like, he can do anything you guys ask him to do.
Jason, just before we move on to out of juniors, just real quick, just to give everybody a picture. When somebody these kids come in there and they start working with you, what is that? Just a brief look at what that program looks like. How often are they in there? What are they doing? That kind of thing. Because I see you post stuff, but I'm curious, just sort of the time commitment and what you're getting out of these kids.
Yeah, the local kids, regardless of who they are, the first thing that happens when you walk in our facility is you go through a 2-hour evaluation. We take 2 hours to screen everybody. We do a full 3D assessment. We break that down and send reports out to their instructors. Then it's typically, we'll talk with them. If you can come in with them, that is the best in our world, hands down. Mark's come in with his students. The ability to then quickly exchange information makes our life easier, but we'll try to send you a report of what we've captured from a 3D perspective. And I'm looking at it purely from a movement perspective and how it influences what they tell me is their biggest trouble spots. Then we do a physical assessment, head to toe, mobility, stability, strength, speed, power, quickness, agility, you name it, we test it. Then we design personal programs for the kids. So they have a program that they are supposed to do that target shoots their issues. Same thing for our adults, but where the kids separate into our compete program is then if they're local, they can train anywhere from 3 hours a week to 10 hours a week in here, depending on the season. We do everything for the most part, set up as group classes. They come in for 2 hours a night and we train during the winter 2 hours a night. First 50 minutes is their own personal things where we're supervising and adjusting their workouts accordingly. The second hour is speed and explosiveness and power. We do teach the kids how to lift and lift appropriately. My personal view on lifting is lighter weights, move it faster. The research I've seen says the golf club at 120 miles an hour weighs about 40 pounds. So in my world, if you can control about 40 or 45 pounds plus your body weight, you can swing at 120. So we tend to have the kids move as fast as they possibly can. Their job is to throw the weights through the ceiling on any kind of explosive lift. And then the last 20 minutes of our program is competition. It is, we have a putting green in here, we have a couple simulators in here, and we set up some sort of competition. No instruction from our perspective. It's close to the pin. One of the kids' favorite drills, and if you have a group of kids, I suggest you try it. They have a blast, is they have a 4 or 5 foot putt. The other students can do anything they want except for touch them or touch their line to distract them. They clap in their face, they whistle in their ear, do all kinds of things. If they make the putt, the group that was trying to distract has to run a sprint. If they miss the putt, they have to run a sprint. First one to make 3 putts wins.
Great.
And so we try to do that because that sprint also elevates their heart rate. It's the closest way we can simulate pressure of trying to make a big putt coming down the stretch by stressing that heart rate, upping that cardio component. And we'll even have them do a similar drill at 4 or 5 footers where it's a race to 10. But every time you miss a putt, and we're putting to a different hole, every time you miss a putt, you have to run a sprint. First one to get 10 makes from 4 foot wins. The kids who have been in here long enough now realize that when they get back, they need to go through their routine and lower their heart rate, which is why putting routine is so very important. The kids who are new and haven't experienced it, they'll run the sprint and grab the putter and try to hit one really fast, and pretty soon their heart rate's 110 and their hands are shaking. Like a 4-footer might as well be a 40-footer. And
For all of you, I would tell you that I saw this about 10 years ago with the Ohio State coach, and he would have players, he'd set up the putting ladder, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 feet, and his players had to make all 5 putts in a row. When they missed, they ran a 20-yard sprint to a golf cart and back, and then they had to do it all over again until they made it. Great drill to do, like Jason's saying. Helps them learn to control their heart rate, which obviously when we get nervous and you get under pressure, what happens. That's accelerated heart rate, and to let them learn. And this goes for any competitive. I would tell you anybody. I use it a lot with beginners when they've got a crowd on the first tee, and I try to get them to understand that their heart rate's accelerating, that they've got to learn to control their heart rate. So that is awesome.
Hey, Jason, we got a question on here from Evan McCoy. He's just asking, what's your opinion on Olympic lifts?
I like Olympic lifts if they're taught properly. They're an explosive activity. Again, I go lower, but our rule in here, Evan, is if you're not able to fully deep squat and to do a toe touch, so full deep squat is required for all Olympic lifts, and a toe touch is required for any variation of deadlift. If you're not able to pass one or either of those, we do not allow you to do them in this facility. So we really hammer form first. Once you do that, then we can have an Olympic lift, because unfortunately I worked in the universities for many years, and the kids are outnumbered, the trainers are outnumbered so severely. At a major school, it might be 500 athletes to 8 trainers. These kids don't get the supervision they need. We've seen too many kids get hurt lifting in college to not teach them how to do it properly. My goal is that our seniors, when they leave, could teach Olympic lifting to our freshmen who are coming into our program, and actually they do. We have them set aside, and they have to teach the lifts to the new kids coming in. With our supervision, of course, but our goal is that they know what they're supposed to do so much that they can teach the lift. And then, knock on wood, to this point, we haven't had any of our athletes get hurt lifting in college, and this is programs been running for about 7.5 years.
Yeah.
So if we go from the junior kid to maybe the average Joe that we're all teaching, who has maybe physical limitations or sits in a chair a lot and all that, talk about maybe the changeover or the different viewpoint you might take from working with us. We were talking about one of my students today, but talk about sort of the average person that we're all going to teach too, that's dealing with that kind of body.
Yeah. Now as we shift into the adult setting, and this is actually important to do in juniors, if you don't do some kind of intake questionnaire with your students, I would suggest that you have a intake questionnaire of some sort. I could be something simple, just getting other contact info, but then do a easy medical history. If you've seen the TPI site, or if you want, I can send you a copy of ours. It's just a general question. Do you have low back pain? Do you have hip pain, ankle, knee? Kind of list what you have. Because as an instructor, there's 2 ways to go about it. We either can work around their issues because they don't want to actually improve that part. They don't have the time to get into the gym and do those things. Or we can teach them how to do it and work on our teaching. Like we were talking with Mark today, he's got a guy with a lot of degeneration in his neck. So he's not going to have great rotation up here in the cervical spine. But one of the other things that goes with that is he doesn't have stability in his neck. So all his upper shoulder muscles are trying to help his neck stay stable. So that's going to affect what he can do with his shoulder, external rotation of the shoulders. It's going to affect his lats. It's going to affect all these issues. And now something Mark may work on with one student, he has to change the way he's going to do it with this student. Whether it's, hey, we're going to try to promote just a big full turn with all body parts, not worry about separation as much in order to help him get the club coming in more. Let his head move off the ball. Let his head do some other things that might not be normal, simply from the restriction. Because if all of a sudden I have to make him lock his head into place and he's not able to rotate, then all of a sudden he's going to feel stuck and short. But if I let him move off the ball a little bit more than a normal person, it might allow him to create a rotation and a path. And I think this is something that instructors like yourselves can do on the range that doesn't require the fitness component of it, but just helping you move around with your teaching. Kind of find a way to make their job easier. Because we all know we're going to do what's easiest, regardless of what's going on. If it's not easy for the body or for the person to do, they may do it while they're there, but they're not going to do it on their own. Pain is the ultimate way to change a motor pattern. If you hurt or you feel restricted, you'll make a change really quickly. So using Mark's example, if you have cervical rotation, a simple test would be looking over your shoulder and can you touch your chin to your shoulder? Well, why would we test neck, right? Our head stays still. Well, if I make a full backswing, my chin is on my shoulder in that turn. So it's the same thing, it's just in a different plane. So if I'm limited here and I'm trying to get them to make a much fuller turn and I don't have the cervical range of motion, I have to let my head do something in order to create some motion. So I think when you use your TPI assessments, if you've done the TPI protocols, I think it's very important to actually know, not necessarily to prescribe exercises, but just to help you in your own teaching, to allow you to figure out what's going on within your teaching. And if they physically can do something, they're more likely to make the change. If they're physically restricted because of an injury or some other piece, which is why I suggest everybody, even if you know nothing about the medical world, if you do a small health questionnaire for a new student, it'll give you some insight before you even start to assign them work. And I don't know how many of you actually do any sort of intake questionnaire from a physical piece or a health history. Does anybody do that with their students?
I think we've got everybody. Most everybody's muted, but if you if you guys have a question or anything about that, please put it in the chat. And Jason, that you mentioned willingness. You talked about this in the beginning about maybe talking about this too. But how do you get somebody who's not too interested in being in the gym? They're more interested in fixing their golf game, and maybe they almost want to discount the physical aspect. How do you get them to realize that it's limiting their ability to get better? And how do you kind of work them into something, anything?
Yeah, and that's a great question when you're looking at this. Is, like I said, fitness can be a 4-letter word. It can be a really bad word. We actually don't even use fitness in our programs anymore. It's a performance package, just because it has such a negative connotation with most people. But tying it into a golf drill and explaining to them of, hey, you know how we want to get you here? Is there something you can do with a golf club across your shoulders? Is there something you can do in front of a mirror that can build some of that range of motion that you're working for? Make it as golf related as possible, and then you can slowly build. I would never give somebody in that situation more than maybe 1 or 2, 3 at the very most exercise drills to do on their own. I just like, hey, can you give me 3 minutes a day in front of a mirror to do this one thing? If you do it for a week, come back, they take a lesson with you again and like, all right, now we're gonna tweak this one thing. If you were just trying to build rotation and say you were just trying to do as big of a turn as you possibly could make, keeping your right foot flat on the ground. Now you might give them a little thing else. Now you might say, hey, I want you to either straighten the right knee or keep the right knee flexed or keep a different part, and start slowly tweaking in what you want them to do without actually letting them know it's an exercise. And if a week later they come back and say, man, that's so hard, I don't know what to do. Hey, I have this one drill I do for myself, working on rotation. It's called the open book. And you show them just an open book where they lay on their side and open up and that gravity. And like, hey, that really helped me stretch into this position. And that's, as instructors, you see so many people who don't have the time or the want to get into the gym or to do that performance side. That's a great way to get them at least physically able to do what you're asking. Because you've all experienced it. We've all seen it for years. Is they physically aren't able to make a motion, the chances of them doing it the second they leave you is slim to none. And then you teach the same lesson over and over again. And then you get frustrated with them, they get frustrated with us, and it's never a good situation. So if there's a physical block, that's a big deal. And especially in the United States, you have to remember that the last research I saw is the average person in the United States sits more than 10 hours a day, which according to the health experts is the same as smoking a pack of cigarettes on life expectancy. We don't move anymore. Unfortunately for your job, we're getting worse and worse athletes coming out to take lessons and at the clubs. is your job is getting harder on that aspect versus even 15, 20 years ago, that wasn't the case. So you just have to be aware of what's changed in just society and how long that we sit every day. And we all are probably experiencing even more so now that we are all stuck at home. You know, all of a sudden you realize, I sat down for 12 hours today. I don't know what to do with myself. You know,
Jason, can you share maybe just for the group, and we're generalizing here, but I think this might be good for everybody, but just maybe some of your go-to exercises for a few different things, maybe like shoulders, thoracic, hip flexors, glutes, just some basic stuff to get people to feel a little bit more movement, maybe something general that they can use that they're not going to hurt somebody with, but could be advantageous for somebody, or even just pass along for somebody who's been sitting a lot.
Yeah, your trouble spots. Common trouble spots we see are upper spine tightness. In TPI, they call it C posture. We see a ton of that. They're hunched over a desk all day. Our posture's rounded. If you have rounded posture or even S posture the opposite way, we've done measurements on K-Vest, and just by changing somebody's posture, we've seen as much rotational change up to 40%, just from a posture perspective. So poor posture really affects rotation highly. But a simple would be grabbing a chair. And I'm doing these as tests that ways you could show your students an easy way. So if you just have them in a chair and they're already sitting like this all day, I might take them where I'm just having them lay back in a chair 4 or 5 times. Sit back, lean back over that chair, really elongate that spine, stretch everything out. By bringing their arms up, you're gonna help stretch the lats. You're gonna get a little bit of pec and shoulder, trying to get out of that posture of constantly sitting all day. That's a really good one if you see a guy that has that posture and you wanna work on their posture from it in a lesson perspective. So I love just being able to move and lean back over that chair. Hips, actually the step overs that we did in the warm up are a great exercise for people with tight hips. By putting that stick there, stepping over that box is a great way to do internal and external rotation of the hip, as well as activate the muscles in the glutes. It's just a great simple exercise for them to do. They can hold on to a wall, they can hold on to a golf cart, they can hold on to a golf club, depending on who they are. That's another big trouble area that we see. And the other reason by going single leg is tying back into that balance. And then rotationally, I love the open book stretch, and I'll hop on the ground here a second. Another one is in a chair. If you reach back over the chair to the opposite side of your chair with your arm and keep trying to turn, give it a little squeeze into the chair and then try to turn a little more. Do a couple little squeezes and turns. So if you're sitting in your chair right now, give that a shot of, I'm gonna turn the chair. I'm gonna grab my opposite leg. I'm gonna reach across all the way over to the far side of my chair and give it a little push. And then a little relax, and then a push. Great way to try to get that separation, that dynamic separation in the body. Getting our hips to be still, really get some trunk rotation built up. Those would be 3 just straightforward stretches you could give to a person that hits those areas. Shoulders wise, shoulders are just a terrible joint to begin with. The design of them is terrible. And so I would just say be careful around people's shoulders, especially when you start getting into like external rotation past that 90-90 stretch. From posture and different things, that's always an area to be aware of. The joint's designed very weak and with their posture, but just doing some light things of like, just doing some squeezes, 90-90 squeezes. Or we do what we call wall slides, where we'll try to open up, put our hands on the wall and slide, keeping your hand, your wrist, and your forearm on the wall, sliding up and down on the wall.
Jason, Jim's asking, Jim Estes is asking about, will activating your core help with rotation?
Yes. From an assessment standpoint, and Mark, you've seen this, and I'll see if we can find a good angle, I'll show you. One of my favorite assessments for our golfers or any of our rotary athletes, baseball players, golfers, is a rolling test. We actually had them lie on their back. Imagine they're paralyzed and they have to try to roll over without using like their lower body. If you've never tried it, it's exceptionally difficult. I think Mark, you gave that a try.
Yeah, I saw Jason do this with one of my students who's a firefighter. It was really good on one side, and then the other side was incredibly bad, which led into everything Jason called on his body. Like Jason probably called it before it happened, but yeah, if you guys try it, maybe you can, I don't know if you want to try and show it to everybody, Jason, just in case they don't know it, because it is pretty tricky.
Yeah, so it's what we tell them is they're going to have to imagine they're back to like 3 months old and they're going to have to roll over. For golf, it's really big on keeping their lower body relaxed and being able to rotate the upper body and not use my legs to help out in my roll. So I'm going to slide back. I'll demonstrate what we're going to do. And then then if you have any questions, I'm happy to talk about that. It's not a TPI screen, but it's one of my personal favorite screens. And just in the past, we instituted it as a screen. So many people couldn't do it as part of our exercise package. That in the last 2 years, the other thing we found is that the people who have chronic low back issues almost universally fail this test to begin with, because they don't understand how to rotate properly, excuse me. So here I go.
Anyway, in the rules they put forward.
So your rule is, if I'm laying down, I'm not allowed to use anything below my waist, so my legs are paralyzed. My head can come off the ground, but I'm just going to try to. It looks simple. Yeah,
Jason, you gave me that screen, I don't know, 5 years ago. It's just Jim Estes. And I've been doing that thing. And I'm telling you, when I first started, you remember me, I couldn't do it. I absolutely could not do it. I tried and I would recruit every muscle on the planet to try to turn over. But now I've gotten to where I can pretty much not use my lower body and rotate my upper body and vice versa. But that has really, really helped my back.
Yeah, it's huge for low back, like I've seen. Is the reason we use that test from a physiological standpoint is in your body, muscles have specific jobs they're designed to do. Because we're a great computer, we've learned that if you give me a task, I'll figure out a way to do it, whether it's right or wrong. Think about how this works in your golf swing. You can give your student a task and they will cheat like nobody's business in order to try to make you happy. It's built into our brains. In the body, one of the primary rotators of especially the upper body is using your oblique abdominals. They're specifically designed to rotate you and also give you a little bit of flexion, which is a little bit of forward bend. So bending over. So if you rotate and you use your obliques to rotate, which are big, strong muscles, it's next to impossible to actually lose dynamic posture in the backswing. The muscles that allow you to raise up in your backswing are actually your back muscles. They're designed to extend your spine, to make you longer. So when I say extension, it would be extending out. Those muscles also, though, aren't designed to rotate very much. So if we lift, though, it tricks our eyes into thinking that we're rotating. So on camera, it can trick us a little bit. But when we do that test, we find out how they're rotating, and the amount of leverage and the pressure gains we see on force plates, the ability to load up into the backswing is pretty crazy. And in Mark's case, where we're working on, like you're working on with your coach shoulder plane, it helps you maintain shoulder plane a lot easier by engaging your core and feeling like you're pushing, like we did the drill with pushing the band back. It just helps you engage that front side, which helps you maintain those postures. But rolling I've had guys that play in the NFL that had back problems that didn't know how to roll. So it doesn't matter how big or how athletic you are, that rolling pattern is exceptionally difficult. And if you get a chance today or later on the floor, give it a shot and try to use it without tighten up any of the muscles of your lower body. So your legs, your quads, your feet aren't allowed to come off the ground.
Your heels aren't allowed to push into the ground. We look for all that and see how hard it is to actually separate. And in some cases you might find, hey, I can go left really well, or I struggle going right. And we could say, hey, if I struggle rotating to my right side for a right-handed golfer, where do you think their issues may be? Those are good chance that those are going to be backswing issues. They're going to have trouble with loading the backswing, which is what we saw in Mark's student. And if they rotate left poorly, I might have trouble with, say, closing the gap. So we see it a lot in juniors onto the left side. The juniors' hips spin way out in front of them. Their shoulders never catch up. They have trouble rotating to that left side. And this isn't a thing that is just with adults. Our juniors probably fail that at an 85% rate. This is a pretty highly failed screen. Like I said, it was part of our exercise packages. And so many people failed that from a higher level screen that we just brought that into a screen because we were like, let's start at a lower level for most people.
So Jason, what do you think is, if, you've got players who obviously lack in rotation, you got players that lack in the vertical. So what do you do when you see those screens? What are you going to do to help make that better? Because we all have that player coming in, they're going, I got to hit it further. I want to hit it further. I want to hit it further. I've never had a student tell me that they hit it too far. So, if you see a guy that comes in and he totally can't rotate, it's all arms, what do you think could be what we need to go with?
I think that's where, if you're using your TPI screens, I think if you have that guy doing the pelvic rotation test and the torso rotation test, so the pelvic rotation being upper body still, rotate the hips, lower body still, rotate the shoulders. If you can show them that they don't have that ability to use those muscles, a simple question to ask is, where are the biggest muscles in your body? Mm-hmm. If they want to hit it farther, they're going to be like, oh man, yeah, like my legs, my chest are really big, strong muscles. And if you're like, hey, you want more club head speed, right? But we're not using any of these big muscles to help you. What do you think we can do? And that, again, I can do that hip twister drill or that torso rotation or the pelvic rotation test. Maybe it's something I give my student as a golf drill. Speaking as an instructor in your case, Sean, you could be like, hey, I had this golf drill and I'd really like you to practice for a little bit before the next time you come back.
So that kind of leads into Jim. Jim's got another question here, of course, that is internal and external rotation of the pelvis the most important functional movement?
It really depends on the player. I've had a hard time finding like the most important thing. If you want the club to travel easier from an inward to outward path, so getting a little more in to out swing, then the ability for the hips to separate from the upper body is really important. Looking at attack angles, I've been blessed to be able to hang out with guys like Sean and Mark and a lot of other top level instructors on the range as we do 3D assessments, and tied in with TrackMan and all the data, and starting to look at what influences these things. We know that the people whose transition is not pelvis first really struggle with a path coming to the inside. They're almost all slightly over the top. It's really hard if you kind of want to, unless they have freakish amounts of shoulder range of motion, they're going to have a really hard time getting the club to drop. If you've ever tried that, if you stand up and you make a backswing with your arms or holding a golf club and now try to move your trunk first without moving your hips and just see where that club goes, try to get the club to actually work down and not out, you'll be shocked on how hard it is to get that club not to start moving over the top. So from a transition standpoint, Jim, the pelvis rotation is a huge piece. A lot of that rotation in the pelvis, when you ask the internal external rotation question, that's more out of the hip joint themselves and your ability to load and unload the hips. So it depends on the miss. The first question I ask any of the students who walk in the door is, what's your miss? Like under pressure, I call it the jump off the bridge miss. We all have one. that we hit the shot and it just, you want to go throw your clubs in a pond when you get it into your system. Under pressure, I flip hook it. Under pressure, I hit this big old block right. I hit this big slice. And then from there, where if you haven't used the technology, 3D is amazing if you use the technology in the way the way it can be used, because it can take things out of camera angles and different things of what they film for us. But you can look at all this data, and we know that this will cause the club to become on this, either close the face, steepen the path, decrease, increase angle of attack. We know these different motions. And from our evaluation standpoint, when we work with students, why we ask you these questions and why I want to talk to you guys is we have to be able to tie in, because you might be restricted in your hips, Jim, but if it's not negatively influencing ball flight, is it something that we need to change right now? There might be something else that has a much greater impact over ball flight that we can work on and not have to give them so much. Because even our juniors get easily overwhelmed with data, and we don't share our data with our students. Mark's seen it where we basically ask the student to go take a walk and we talk about it.
So wrapping up here, Jason, we've got a lot of great things that I know got my mind thinking a lot, but obviously you're on social media. So you want to talk about, I know Instagram and how can they connect with you and how can they learn more?
And Jason, real quick before you answer that, just I want to remind everybody, I typed it in the chat, but for us to do this correctly and get everybody credit, type your name and PGA number back in one more time for me in the chat as Jason answers this question, so we can make sure we get all the accounting of this done. And then before we wrap up, I just want to remind everybody about the schedule. But Jason, yeah, like Sean said, let everybody know how they can find you, man.
Yeah, we have a website, peakgolffitness.com. We are trying in the middle of the situation to try to put out a bunch of data. We're trying to help whoever we can. That keeps us busy, keeps us active. Email us. We've been shooting lots of videos, like warm-ups. I think we have like 6 different types of warm-up videos on our site now that if you shoot us an email, we'll happy to send you the link to those. We try to post daily workouts on Peak Golf Fitness Instagram page, as well as we say it's for juniors. We do a live workout on Wednesday nights at 6:30 Eastern and Saturday mornings at 9:30 Eastern in the morning. But anybody's able to join, but if you have some juniors, we concentrate on speed and explosiveness. I think Saturday mornings is more of a speed concentration. Wednesday nights a little bit more on the power side. You can tie into those Facebook Live videos. You can find us on Facebook. Our goal is just to reach out and help whoever we can. Mark and Sean have known me for a long time and know that one of my biggest goals in life is to help as many people as we possibly can. If you have questions, if you have clients, you want to shoot the videos over, I'm happy just to share input. If you are a 3D user, I've used AMM for 15 years, and I've also, like I said, on the educational certification board for K-Motion. If you have data captures and you want us to help you out, you want us to take a look at these, I'm more than happy to maybe take a look at from a different set of eyes for you and type some stuff up and send it back. I could say, you're looking at it from a golf perspective. I could say, hey, check out this body part. Check out what's going on here, just for maybe a different set of eyes if you have any questions. That's really what we're trying to do, is just put out as much data as we possibly can and see what are ways to make people better.
Awesome.
Mark, you want me to go over caves first, and then you can take over the other schedule?
Yeah, please, Sean, go ahead for everybody on here.
What we've got to make sure everybody knows what's going on. Obviously, under situation, we're hearing rumors, but we've gone ahead and scheduled the month of May, and we got some fabulous stuff going on. Obviously, many of you know that I worked with Bernie Najar at Caves Valley, and Bernie always puts on an awesome teaching summit, and that is actually he is going to continue it this year. It will be online, obviously, and he's got a great lineup, but it's Monday, April 27th from 1 to 4 o'clock. It's going to be on Zoom. It is free. He's doing this out of his graciousness of his heart. But he's got Mark Sweeney and Brian Bailey on from Game Forge, Mark Sweeney being Aim Point also. But then some real cool things of Josh Gregory, who's the Augusta State coach and a fabulous short game coach on tour, along with Rob and Holdings. Is that how you say it, right?
Rob Holding. Rob Holding, yep.
He is going to be on there along with Bernie. So that is going to be, you need to email Bernie at bnajar@caysvalley.net if you're interested. He's kind of holding off sending it out to the masses because he wants to give MAPGA members preference. So if you're not an MAPGA and you're on here, you're getting a little nugget free. You can obviously subscribe to this. You just need to email to Bernie and say that you would like the link to the Zoom meeting. And he actually, I'm going to go ahead and throw that Bernie is, so the May schedule we have is Bernie is going to actually host what we're going to call Bernie's Neighborhood, which was, I don't know if Russo, if you had the naming of that.
I came up with that. Sorry. He may hate me for that one, but.
Oh, I texted him yesterday if he would be my neighbor. But it's pretty neat. Bernie is going to host three Thursdays in a row at 1 o'clock, starting on, I think May 7th is the first Thursday, correct?
Yep.
So May 7th, 14th, and 21st, he is going to host a Bernie's Neighborhood, kind of go over what he teaches. And if you've never listened to Bernie, I would highly encourage it. The man is, I call him the professor, and there's a reason. So he's a great guy to listen to. So we've got that going on in May. Mark, you want to talk about?
Yeah, real quick, everybody. Just we'll have the schedule put out, and we'll post it, and I'll have it on my Instagram, and the section will. But again, Bernie's thing on the 27th, and then we've also got 3 associate days for associates in our section set up. One starting on the 27th, and the 4th and the 11th to help them get through the program with mentors. An hour-and-a-half session, 9 to 10:30, and then 11 to 12:30. So you can look at the info for that that's coming out. But we start our May one for the section May 1st. It's a Friday with Dr. Brett McCabe. So we're going to start off with a high and tight fastball from Doc McCabe. He's going to be really good. So, and we've got a really good month lined up for all of you. So just keep an eye out for that. We'll see the graphic out there, and we hope you guys can start by signing up for Bernie's thing. And we'll keep it rolling until we got to go back to work or whatever.
Also, all that information is on social media, but it's also on the Mid-Atlantic, the MAPGA.com website. If you go to I think it's the second column, which is members, and tab down to the second or third, which is education, there's a page there that does list everything that we have on that we are doing.
And I'll send you and Sean a copy of our screen and the medical health questionnaire that we give to our students as far as background information. And I'm more than happy to share with anybody. If you want, I'll type it into the message box too. My email address is jason@peakgolffitness.com. And if you have any questions at all, please reach out. I've been blessed to work with some really, really smart people, and happy to pass on whatever information I can possibly pass on to help anybody else who needs it.
And I would encourage you. I mean, Jason, obviously, I've seen Jason several times just show up, and he'll come in and just kind of, hey, can I watch? And he loves to learn, just like Mark and I both do, and many of you I know do. So
yeah,
feel free to contact
Jason. Doing this, and really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody for coming on and hanging out with us once again. And we hope to see all of you on Monday, the 27th. The associates will be on their thing in the morning, and then we got Bernie's thing at 1. So I hope we can see all of you at 1 o'clock for Bernie's thing. Thanks again, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for the curveball.
All right, buddy. No sweat. See you guys.
See ya.